Some people think power comes from titles. Some think it comes from authority. And some people believe that a clipboard, a badge, and a phone call to the police can make them untouchable. This story is about one of those people. A woman who believed she owned the neighborhood simply because her name sat on an HOA board. A woman who decided that my private driveway was hers to control. And a woman who made the single worst mistake of her life by calling the police over land that legally belonged to me. She expected me to back down. She expected the officers to enforce her authority. She expected the HOA to protect her. Instead, within 24 hours, she was banned from a neighborhood she once ruled that I had lived on this property long before the HOA existed. The land sat just outside the main subdivision, backed up against trees and a lake. The house was older than most of the neighborhood, built when zoning laws were looser and privacy was still respected. The driveway was long, wide, and entirely on my deeded land. County surveys confirmed it. Property lines confirmed it. Tax maps confirmed it. When the HOA was formed years later, my property was included by default, but my driveway was explicitly excluded from HOA control. Most people understood that. One person did not. She moved in 2 houses down and immediately acted like she had been elected mayor of the street. She volunteered for the HOA board within weeks. And she climbed fast. Rules, notices, warnings, fines. She loved paperwork more than peace. And she hated anything she couldn't control. Especially my driveway.it started small. Notes about parking alignment. Complaints about visibility issues. Emails referencing HOA guidelines that didn't apply to my parcel. Every complaint centered around my driveway. Apparently, she didn't like that delivery trucks used it. She didn't like that visitors parked there. She didn't like that it existed. Each time, I responded calmly. I sent copies of my survey. I referenced. It started small. Notes about parking alignment. Complaints about visibility issues. Emails referencing HOA guidelines that didn't apply to my parcel. Every complaint centered around my driveway. Apparently, she didn't like that delivery trucks used it. She didn't like that visitors parked there. She didn't like that it existed. Each time, I responded calmly. I sent copies of my survey. I referenced the HOA boundary agreement. She ignored all of it. Instead, she escalated. She began telling neighbors that my driveway was shared access. She hinted that emergency vehicles needed unrestricted HOA-approved clearance. None of it was true. Still, people started whispering. That was her specialty, creating authority through confusion. The incident happened on a quiet morning. I was having work done on the property. Heavy equipment, landscaping repairs. To keep vehicles safe, I temporarily blocked my own driveway using cones and my truck. Everything was legal. Everything was temporary. Everything was on my land. That's when she saw it. Within minutes, she was taking photos, walking back and forth, making calls. She decided that this was her moment. Instead of contacting me, instead of checking records, instead of doing her job responsibly, she made the call. She called the police. 2 officers arrived shortly after. They reviewed the situation carefully. They listened to her complaint. They examined the property. And then they asked for documentation. That's when everything changed. The deed, the survey, the county map, all clearly showing that the driveway was private property. The officers immediately understood what had happened. There was no violation, no obstruction, no authority from the HOA. The call had been unnecessary. More importantly, it had been recorded. And that record would soon become evidence. What she didn't realize was that abusing emergency services is taken very seriously. The officers documented the incident thoroughly. They noted the HOA title she used to justify the call. They flagged it as a misuse of authority. That report went into the system. By the end of the day, multiple HOA board members had seen it. They had also seen something else. Years of complaints, selective enforcement, patterns of harassment. My driveway was just the spark. The emergency HOA meeting happened the next evening. I didn't attend. I didn't need to. The evidence spoke louder than I ever could. Misrepresentation of authority. False claims to law enforcement. Legal exposure for the HOA. The board had no choice. She was removed immediately. Her access revoked. Her authority terminated. her presence restricted. By morning, she was no longer allowed to represent the HOA or interfere with any resident again. In less than 24 hours, she lost everything she tried to control. The neighborhood changed overnight. No more notes. No more threats. No more power games. My driveway stayed exactly where it had always been. Quiet, private, untouchable. And the woman who thought one phone call could bend reality learned a lesson she'll never forget. Power without legality collapses fast. Authority without truth disappears faster. And sometimes, the fastest way to lose control is to call the police on the wrong homeowner.